All right, welcome back. We're working on Gem Wars. What we're going to do is we're going to move the single player logic from being on the client to over on the server. So we have moved many of our methods over. What we're moving now is play piece. So when you play a piece, it needs to send that to the server, validate that on the server the board is clear, and then broadcast that to all connected clients. Well, let's show where the game is at right now. So if I were to run the back end, hey there, Fallen Hope. Thank you so much for that support, buddy. How are you doing today? Okay, so that's the identity server, the web API, and the TCP server are all up and running. We run the game. It says logging into server, connecting to matchmaking server. And this is good. Now we're connected to the client. So I'm going to choose Open Play. So what's happening right now in Open Play, and I need to fix some of these graphics and stuff so that we can verify that this is kicking through. So in Open Play, these objects here are created on the server. Okay? Come on, computer. So if you can see when I play them, it's actually validating that these can be placed on the server right now. You can see that one fails validation, for example. But you can see the delay when you play the piece where it's checking on TCP to make sure that piece is valid. Now, you can also see the delay when the pieces come back because pieces are being fed back from the server again. So where our issue comes in is that when you get a line, okay, client side is calculating the line, so the grid on the server doesn't know about it, and so it's not going to let us play a piece there. And so that's the first thing that we're going to correct. Hey there, Somersault. Welcome back. It's good to see you again. Welcome back to the channel. Fallen Hope says you're fine. You too, Rob. I was talking to Summer. No worries. No worries. All right. So this is good to go here. So let's go ahead and dig in on server side, client side. So when I look at when I play a piece, I'm doing some client. This is on the client, on the Unity game. So when you stop dragging the piece, we're going to look at the drawer that that piece is in, and if on the client it says that we can't place it, then we don't even have to hit the server. But if we do, then we're going to hit the server here. We're going to set our block, get our position here for our piece. And we're going to go ahead and attach this to Unity because on my back end, in my business logic layer, I have something here called the business logic layer game manager on the back end. And down here, when we play a piece, we're going to return here with a position. Okay, here. So let's take a look and see what the difference in these positions are. Because you can see I have this +1 here on this X, which we need. And that's because the array... Hey there, Somersault. Thank you for that follow. Appreciate that so much. If you have any questions, you know what to do. Pop them in the chat. Appreciate the support. So the problem is that the position here is of the piece, not of the individual blocks. So when I play the game again, okay, when I play a piece, put this at 0, 0. On the client side, it says my piece is at 0, 1. Okay. And if I look at my blocks, those are at one, one, 1, 2, 2, 1, and 2, 2. So 0 is not possible for either of them. But the position that this piece was played was at 0, 1. So now on the server side, my position is at 0, 1. And I send it back. And when I receive that, back, the piece is at 3, 1. Two, two. Haha, I get it. I want a 2, 2 once. So again, the piece position here is at 2, 2. And it's not. It's at 3, 2. So let's check that one more time. The piece position should be at 3, 1. And it's at 4, 1. So let's look at my get position here. We're going to change this here to say local position. And then I'm going to change this to be a new vector 3 of my local position dot see, so this is changing the local position, and then it's getting the actual position. So if I was to change this to position, let's see if that fixes it. On a side note, anybody out there playing Eve Echoes? Okay, we'll go to Open Play. We place this my piece position here is at 3, 1, 10. One, 2, 3. And so that means it's to the left. So I'm kind of okay with that. So let's try it on the back end. And we'll run it again. Nope, says Somersault. No worries. It's probably only appealing for those of us who lost years of our lives to EVE Online Origins on PC and Mac. Probably. My wife watches me play and thinks I'm losing my mind. Connected. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give it a run. This time my position X is 1, my position Y is 2. We'll go with it. And it looks like it placed it in the right position. So that looks good. That resolved that little issue. So now our next issue is that when we need to have something in here which calculates our lines. So in GemWars, I have a board script which has a can add piece to board. We're going to fire this event here, which on the game manager if this is the local player, if this is a networked player. So here, interesting. We're going to say to do, this needs to pass the action to set position. So I think I can just do this as a piece game object dot set position to a new vector 2 of my c dot position x and my c dot position y. And then we can pass in here the action. Right here. We can move this up here. Which means that this action is going to have my line calculation on it. Just a second. So down here now, I want to have a new function which is going to be in my scriptable objects you have something here called a line and a move, which is now called an action, I think, right? A line has a number of blocks in it. And your play piece is going to return a number of lines. Okay? So here, this is the class that I'm going to move over, is this line SO. So when I look at my action received here, those are when it can't play the piece. When it can play the piece here, we're going to create this action. But where am I calculating the lines? In this, because I feel like this response should include the lines. Just one more second. Back on the front end. Action play piece simulate has a number of lines on it, which is where you're going to init them. So here, these line SOs we need to generate. And we're going to do that on the back end. So what I want to have here is I want to have a protected virtual void calculate lines. And when I look at that, that's happening here when we have something called play piece. And what I want to return here is a because I don't want to put the logic in there for saying that it can play the piece. This is where I'm checking if it cannot add it to the grid. We're going to change this grid to be block DTO. Like that. All right, no worries, Fallen Hope. See you in a second. But when you add this piece to the grid, we want to return here we're going to have a new function here called can add piece to grid. And this one's going to be add the piece. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want this to be a line instance DTO. And when I look here at my instances for a line instance, it's going to have one action play piece. So that looks right. So this is going to be a line instance DTO array. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the lines. So I'm going to make a new function here called protected virtual void check for lines. And what this is going to do is we're going to pass in here an array of blocks. And what I want to do is for each one of my blocks in blocks, I want to say my is horizontal line equals true. And we're going to do a 4x, and we're going to go up into my board size. So I want to get my var board SO is equal to, and this is going to be check for lines asynchronous, and we want to make this an asynchronous task. And we're going to say using var context equals new application. DB context. But this is in my library, so it doesn't know what the context is. So it is right the other way. And this is where we want to have this action piece, play piece DTO. We're going to do a calculate lines. And this is where I'm going to do a block DTO called blocks. And then I want to go for each var block in blocks. I want to say is horizontal line equals true. And then we're going to go for my x starts at 1 to my and here we're going to say TCP response game. Up here where we're calculating it, we have a game player. But what I want to get is the size of the board. So we could do a game dot now we have a bit of a problem because the game object only has one round and one match. And it's a little different than that. Same thing here with this board response. So we got to fix that. We can't go forward without this being corrected. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of cleanup here. So when I look at my objects here, I have these scriptable objects create requests, which are fairly similar to the DTOs, but they're not. I have these DTOs, which look right. And then I have these TCP objects. So I'm going to move these ones up here to be called TCP. And I'm going to move this packet and packet DTO up here. This is lib.requests.tcp. Okay. And so now these are going to be called view models, which we can just call VMs for short. And I'm going to call this a VM type. And we're going to change this to be called base VM lib dot VMs. Before I forget, on the front side, this is going to be called a base VM and a VM type, which is called VM type. So you have a couple of different types of VMs over here. We'll start here with the game. So this is called a game VM. And then a game generic VM. And then a game multiplayer VM. And a game single player VM. And we want to make sure that all of these are in lib.vms. Let's just do this first so that I don't break anything. Almost done. And there's a reason behind this. Okay, now we're going to change these things. So this is going to be a round VM, and then a round generic VM, and a round multiplayer VM, and a round single player VM. And then we're going to have a match VM, match generic VM, match multiplayer VM, match single player VM. And then we're going to have a action VM, a action play piece VM, a board VM, a drawer VM, a drawers VM, plural, a draw piece VM, 2 more, game player VM, and piece VM. Because now on my game VM, I want this round to be an I collection of round responses, like that. So over here, round responses. But this is an I collection because you're going to be adding to it. Okay, so back over here, round responses. Your round, then we're going to go to the game generic, is going to be an I collection of this round responses. Which on my round, we want to have this as a match responses. And then on the match, you're going to have any number of these I collection just a second. Well, your board, we want to move these to the board, match player boards. And this is going to be an I collection of board responses. Every time that error window pops up, I thought I was doing something wrong. Okay. And this has your match player boards on it. If I look at my entities here, yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay, so again, back down here, a match has a number of board responses. Like that. Okay. This is going to give me some errors that we need to fix here. Oh God. Okay, the first one is that this needs to have the new namespace in here. This is called a piece view model. And this is a action play piece view model. And this one wants me to request an action play piece view model. And this is called a drawers view model. And this is a match generic VM, and this is a round generic VM. This is a drawer VM, and a action purchase piece VM. Sorry, it's that one. So up here at the top of the class now, I can clean this up. We can ignore this for now. This is a drawer VM. This is a round multiplayer VM, round single player VM, match multiplayer VM, match single player VM, game player VM, board VM, piece VM, piece VM, drop piece VM, and then a drawers VM. And this one here is a drawers VM. which is saying that this is a match generic VM and a round generic VM. Okay. The TCP request action play piece. Like that. So down here, when I'm looking at my game response, I know that this is going to be my round responses.last. We're going to add this one here. And then this is responses.last.matches. This one is an I collection of match responses called match responses. Almost done. This is board responses dot add. This is going to be round responses dot last dot match responses dot last dot board responses dot last of your match player boards. Like that. This is going to get a little ugly here. This is going to be round responses dot last dot match responses dot last dot match players, and this is going to be my round responses dot last match responses dot last match board players. Now, I don't know if this is right. Hold on here. This is the one under request game multiplayer. So I don't think this is right. We got to go back and rethink this just a minute. Because this is a multiplayer one, so when you create your match, I would expect to create the match players here too. And this is going to be requesting the round instance. And the context. That's fine. That's fine. This is for the match players. So, for your last round, we're going to create a match, which is going to be any of my game players. Board responses.add, this one. And this is going to change significantly when we get going a little bit more. And so you're going to create this with your match instance, your tiers. Okay, so this is round responses.last.match responses.last. And then this is going to be my board responses.last. And then for each one of my round responses.last.match responses.last.match players. Round responses.last.match responses.last match players. This is going to be your board responses.last. like that. And we got to do the same thing for single player. Okay, and this is going to be round responses dot last dot round. Like that. We'll add that one in there. Okay, create player pieces here are round responses, match players, round responses, match responses, board responses dot last dot match player boards. Hey there, GeoOffery. How are you doing? How are you doing today? Tell me what's going on. All right, that looks good, I guess. Create drawer pieces. For this match player board. This is called a drawers view model. Now, what I don't like about this is that this function is not taking in all the right things, but we'll just get this so it builds. Okay, a couple more changes here. We do? Says Somersault. Yeah, which one? Tell me about it. That looks right. This is a piece VM. And a drawer VM. And a drawer VM. Drawer VM, almost done. And this here is a action play piece VM and a drawers VM. This is a match single player VM and a round single player VM. This one is a, oh yeah, yeah we do. Looks good. That looks real good. I like the pixel dude next to him as well. Chill. Yeah, it's a good looking sleeve. Okay, almost done. This here is a draw piece VM. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild this now, and we're going to need to go and debug some of this, I think. We're going to finishing my bicep now, then one arm will be complete. That's nice, that's good. I'm almost done on this one as well. I've got this stuff which we're covering up here on the front, and then some filler, and then a little bit on top here as well. So it's my first cover up, but yeah, it's great to finish up projects.
Okay, so functionally this works, but it's not it. The code builds, but it functionally does not currently work. So what I mean by that is when we look here at the game, we create these instances for all of our players, multiplayer. We add a new round. And when I look at my create match multiplayer response, I also want to have on here a round and a player DTO called players. And that's going to be a number of these game player instance DTO called players. We're going to call that game players. And the match, which is a right here. And then my context. Okay. So up here, I can get rid of this match players. To do, create different matches for matching up players. For now, I'll leave it like this. And we want to pass in here my game response.gamePlayer responses.select my game player. So in here, you can move this logic. And you want to pass in here a tier DTO called tiers. This is the round DTO. That's not true. These things. Oh, but you're in the instances. Because this one is returning DTOs, and this one doesn't want the DTOs, it wants instances. So this is going to be called var tier color chances round. And this one's going to be called tier gem chances round. And then this is tier color chances round and a tier gem chances round. And then in here, we're going to pass in the game response.tiers. So let's look at the multiplayer one now. When you do this, you want to have your game player instance DTO called game players. And we'll add them in here. And you want to do this for your game players create match single player here. And we'll add it in. Hydrate. Here, we're going to say var match players are going to be your game players and your match DTO. Now, you're also going to need these rounds. And this is a tier instance DTO called tiers. So now the next thing is that we have this create this match single player. We're going to move that into here. And this wants to have a round DTO. Your number of game players that are in the match. Like that. All right. So back up here, this is in single player. We no longer have this. And here we want to have game response dot game player responses dot select my game player dot to array. So in here, we're going to have this var match VM equals a new response of my round DTO. Your game player instance called game players. And your context. Like that. And so now you can get rid of this one and have it with the tiers of my game response dot game player responses dot select the game player dot to array. Okay. The next one is in your multiplayer. We want to add the board and board draws. And so when you create the board, you want to have the match instance DTO. Which is your match VM dot match. You want to have your tiers. Tier color chances rounds, tier gem chances rounds. Now you have the game scriptable object, a random. So we'll add up here random. We're going to add in here a game SO called game SO. And this is going to go match VM dot board responses dot add one of these. And in this, we want to add the game SO here, which is game SO. And then also the random. This is round one, match, and board. So down here, this is round one, match, and board. So when I look at this one, this is everything for the boards. So we'll look in here. create round single player. So it's the first match in that round. So this is going to be match vm.tier color chances single players is going to be equal to this new match DTO that I made, which is called match vm.match, your round SO, your tiers, and that's it. So this one is your match VM. So this is board draws, gem chances, and color chances. And then here, you're going to have a match vm.boardresponses.add, and you want to add in here your match vm.match, your tiers, colors, single players, and multiplayers. Your game SO, which we want to pass up here. And the random. So back up here, I can pass in the game SO and the random. Now the next one is this match players boards. So if I look at here, we're going to say that this is going to be my board VM. Instead, when we do this, this is only going to be good for 2 players right now. Right here. Okay, hold on. And here you're creating your board. So here, create board asynchronous. You want to do this where you're creating your match, multiplayer, so when I look at this match multiplayer response, this is where we're going to create the board. And so this is going to be match DTO. We're going to need to pass in here the tier DTOs called tiers. I look back up here. See, I want to move all this stuff into the match single players. Hey, this is the match DTO. In this, we need to have a round SO. Round for color and gem chances. Which is always going to be round. And this is match DTO. Your tiers, we want to have that as a tier DTO called tier instance DTO called tiers. And that's a round SO. So we're going to say round SO for my round 2 for color and gem chances. This here is my var board response. And this is going to be your match DTO. And then your tiers single player, tiers multiple player, gem chances. You need to include your game SO. And a random. Like that. So on the other one, you just want to have this board response. But these tier color chance rounds, that's fine. And on the multiplayer, we're going to add in here tier color chance instance DTOs called tiers color chances instances, and a tier gem chance instance DTO. Hey there, Onus on the Ponus. Welcome. How are you doing today? Welcome back. Chances instances. But we want these to be round instance DTO. We also want to pass in the game SO and a random. So this is going to be a new list of board VM, and we're going to have in here a board. And then we can move this one up here to my create board. So when I look at this again, for multiplayer, we get our game players, create the responses. This I can probably roll into here. like that. Same thing with the tiers. And now we're going to go ahead and add this into this multiplayer response, because this is going to be your var round 1. And you want to get this for your asynchronous task, like that. And this is a game DTO. This is a tiers. This is a game player responses. And we want to select my game player .toArray. Game SO, our random, and then the application database context. So that's that. Okay. Which means that this also needs to have the random, and that's it. So finally, we have these player pieces that we need to create. Now, when you create the round, you're also going to create the first match here. Round, game players, tiers, tiers colored chances, tier gem chances, game, random, context. Now the player pieces get created when the game gets created. And then because you need your match player board. So you can't do this until you create your match here. So for each one of my game players, I want to get the match players where my game ID is my game player.id. And then my game player board is the board. We want to get the one where the match player is there. Here. Here, this is my var drawer responses, and we're going to create the drawer VMs of my game player, selected match player board, game SO, tiers, tiers color chances, tier gem chances. But these need to go onto the game player response. When I look at this create game player drawers, you're attaching the match player board ID to it. So in this one, you want to get your game response dot round responses dot last dot match responses and you want to get the first one where your match players have any in it, where my game player ID is equal to game player.id. So this is going to be a match, selected match. And then we're going to have a selected match player equals a selected match dot match players, and we want to get the first or default where my game player ID is equal to game player.id. And then here you want to get your selected match dot board responses dot last hold on. We're going to have another one in here called selected board equals your selected match dot board responses dot first or default, the one where my we'll just say that is equal to my selected match player dot but the board is going to be the last one. Like that. Which means that we also need to have the tiers, tier color chances, tier gem chances, the random, and the context. So this is game response.tiers. We're in multiplayer, so this is going to be game response.round responses dot last dot tier color chance rounds. This is tier gem chance rounds, like that. And now your game player dot draw responses equals draw responses dot drawers. And that's it. Okay, for the next one, We've got game player responses, tiers. The boards and the board matches all need to happen in here. So this is going to be var game player responses equals this game DTO. This is just called tiers. So this is going to be called round 1. And in here we can say round response equals new list of round VM. And we can add in here round 1. And that's going to be your game DTO, your tiers, your game players, your game SO, a random, and the context. And now our match single player boards. Create board asynchronous. So we'll look at that in a second. This is asynchronous. We also want to pass in here a random. Now, for each one of these things in the responses, I want to have these objects like this. And then we're going to assign it here and save it. So in here, we have the round we're going to have the round SO, the game player instances, tiers, our game SO, and the random. So down here, where we're going to create my match player boards, These are exactly the same. This is your board DTO here at the end. And then this one are your match players. What you want to have is a match player DTO. Match player instance DTO called match players. And that's it. We'll give it a rebuild. Okay, that worked. So we'll start the back end. Now we're going to switch over to the front end. We have a few errors to fix here. This is round responses. And we want to get the last one. Same thing here. Now this one, you want to get the match players. No, this match, you just want to pass in a match SO. A match DTO. Now I don't like this at all, so I'm probably going to change this later, but for now we'll leave it. This is round responses dot last dot match responses dot last. And again, that's not right because that match player needs to be determined. You want to say data cache dot TCP response game dot round responses dot last dot match responses dot first or default, where my match players have any, where my game player ID is equal to game player dot instance ID. So this is going to be the selected match. Like that. So here we can do the selected match again. So you want to say your var selected match is your data cache.tcp game.round responses.last.match responses dot first or default, where my match players have any, where my game player ID is equal to your game dot player local dot So here you want to get your var selected game player equals data cache.tcp response game.game player responses dot first or default, where my game player dot ID player ID is equal to game dot player local dot instance ID. Like that. And then your selected match is the one where your game player ID is equal to your selected game player.id. And then you want to get a board responses.last. And then when you create the draws, we want to get selected match.board responses.last. So here, we can do this again. Like that. Okay. And then down here at the bottom, I think we're good. Let's give it a try. Everything's running. We'll see how much this breaks when I run it now. So this is telling me at base game manager start scene 46. We'll attach this to Unity and try it again. Hey John, how are you doing? It's good to have you back with us. I'm doing tremendous amounts of Vue.js these days. How are you? I'm secretly wishing Smite would randomly put us in a match. It happened once, man. Just reach out. I play a good amount. I'm also playing Eve Echoes, if you play that at all. Okay, we're going to create the players. We've got one. We're going to create the game, and then we're going to start the scene. When I look at this, TCP response game, we need this to be a I collection of V called round responses. I saw you doing stuff with Angular. Really sick. Yeah, I've been doing a ton with it. It's pretty straightforward, kind of fun to use. No complaints from me. And then this is a I collection here of S called match responses. Like that. Tiers. Round. Now you want to get the DTO. Round responses dot last. And you want to get the appropriate match. Somewhere up here you were getting the players. So over here you wanted to say your game player equals your game.gameplayers.first or default x, where my player.id is equal to my game.playerlocal.player.id. And then that makes this a selected match. And this one you can say get typed as a game single player like that. Let's give it another try. Same problem. Let's reattach it, try it again. Come on, computer. We'll let this go for just another 60 seconds. If it doesn't kick through, I'll kill it and restart it. Okay, let's go ahead and kill this. That should let us start it again, and we should be able to get this thing to attach pretty easily now. Come on. Can't get it to go faster here. There we go. Let it kick through now. Sorry, I need to run the AC for just a little bit. Give it just a second to start up. Come on there. This is super annoying when it won't attach. All right. We might have to take a break if this is what it's going to be doing for me right now and not helping, not trying to get this done.
Looks like it's getting closer. We'll let it go to 3 minutes, and if it doesn't work in 3 minutes, we're good. There it goes. Okay, it's starting it up. I'm gonna run the scene. It says TCP response game round responses. So this needs to be it's failing because it doesn't know what type of game it is. So, I'm going to take a break. When we come back, what we need to do is we need to start separating this into an online, an offline script, and an online and an offline script. And then also a single player and a multiplayer script. Hey Duck Island, how are you doing today? Welcome to the channel. If you have any questions, make sure you pop them in the chat. Also join our Discord, discord.pixelhorrorstudios.com. I put all these videos up at youtube.pixelhorrorstudios.com. Thanks for staying with me. I'll see you guys in just 15 minutes.